Hey, how are you? I hope you've been good, and I hope things are alright. 5k subs. Damn. It's been so long, and I'm so happy we've finally reached it. Feels really good. So thank you all. Look, this video is gonna have almost no editing. I think it's just gonna have no editing. I'm deciding. No editing. No intro, no outro. Literally just sat here talking about my story before I picked up the camera. A lot of people have been asking about it, so this is it. This is gonna literally have no editing, so like if you are genuinely like interested, just put your phone to the side, view this as a podcast, go do something else as you listen to this. This isn't a thing for me teaching you something about experience, this is literally just me sharing my story. So I hope you enjoy your stay, and I hope you enjoy my story on how I got here. Where to even start? I don't even know. My name is Sean Wylder. I'm 19, getting up to 20 now. And I've basically lived in the UK my whole life. My parents split on a very early age, so I always had the sort of lifestyle where I'd be living at my mum's or living at my dad's. But our typical split was I would be with mum and my little sister for 5 days of the week. Monday to Friday, the school days, and then we'd go to our dad's on the weekends when he was in the country. A lot of the time dad is an artist, so he's very, very busy, he travels a lot, he does a lot of work. So when we were younger, he was traveling quite a lot. He was never really in the country. We loved him though, we absolutely loved being with him. We were always so excited to see dad for the weekend. We'd be like, oh yes, the weekend's coming up, we get to see dad. And then when he'd go off for like his work holiday or stuff like that for like 6 months or so, we'd be like, dad will be back in 6 months. And then we get to see him again. So we loved him to bits, and you know, it's work. You can't really do much about it. Plus, they were split. Mum had custody of the kids. You see, my dad's English and my mum is Asian. Now, bearing in mind now, I love my mum, I love my dad very much. But things weren't always like that. When I was living with my mum and me and my sister, mum was very, very strict. But since I'd grown up my whole life with the typical Asian like discipline, like belts and like wooden spoons and like, you know, that kind of stuff, I didn't realize that wasn't normal in English culture. In Asian culture, it's very normal to discipline your kids or beat your kids to make sure that they're, you know, like behaving well. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned like early on, there are some parts of the story that are so absolutely fucked, like genuinely, some stuff you will not believe. Like I've had my friend like literally tell me like I should write a book about my life because it's genuinely been a fucking, like it's like out of a movie. So this is a disclosure right here. Please listen at your own warning. There are some quite gruesome bits, and there are some quite disturbing stuff. So if you're not comfortable with a lot of things like that, you do not need to watch this. This isn't for your purpose. It's just me talking about my story. There is a lot. This is probably going to be a long video. Gather around, boys. We've got an emotional vid. We've got a lot of traumatizing events. So yeah, if you're not okay with some like gruesome stuff, then you're probably best to click away now. I should have said this at the beginning of the video. So yeah, where was I? So yeah, mum disciplined us in the typical, how most people would, like in Asia. And mum worked a lot as well. So she was a night nurse, like a carer. So she was gone a lot of the time. So there have been like quite a few mornings where I'd just get up, it'd just be me, I'd get breakfast ready. Mum kind of like prepared like stuff for us. But I'd get it ready for us. Me and my sister would then go off to the bus, go to school, come back. Mum wouldn't be there. So we'd do our homework and then kind of just do our own thing and go to bed. And if anything went wrong, or we didn't do something, like we didn't clean up, or like we left some mess, obviously mum would be quite hard on us. And that's kind of left a big sort of like, I never really had a problem with it myself, but my younger sister did. But yeah, since I had grown up and that's all I knew, I thought it was normal, so I didn't have a problem with it. And from my perspective, Mum worked a lot as a single mum looking after us. She worked a lot, and I had a lot of respect for her for doing that. I was like, it's hard. So I always told her, don't worry about us, don't worry about leaving us, you're working hard. Honestly, it's no biggie. I wanted to go see my friends and stuff, but obviously, I'm not going to leave my sister by herself. Fast forward a couple years, get to 11, and it's quite... My mind is actually starting to get a little bit worried. I learned that just do what Mum says and you won't get beat. But my sister didn't. As I mentioned earlier, she didn't like all this rules, all this discipline, all this strictness. So Mimi, my little sister, kind of dealt with the worst side. And I remember this one morning, Mum had recently been cheated on with her boyfriend. So they had split. Mum was quiet. The morning after, she was quite angry. And we were a little bit late for the thing, and then my sister wasn't eating very well at the table. And I remember just being upstairs, and they're downstairs. And I just remember hearing my sister's quite a lot of pain. Mum was going a bit too far. And I don't even remember what happened, but basically I went downstairs and stopped it. I didn't use force, don't worry, no force was used. I just restrained Mum so she couldn't hit my sister anymore. So that happened. In the morning of school, Mum was shocked. I had so much adrenaline pumping through me, I was like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. So yeah, and it was awkward as hell because Mum had to drive us to school. So in the morning she was like, I think she even started speeding out of anger a few times. And we were both looking at her in the car oh, what the fuck? Are we going 80 miles per hour in a fucking 20 zone? I remember when we got dropped off to school, I couldn't focus at school at all. I was in secondary school, I just couldn't focus. Just could not focus. I was thinking about the morning, fuck, did I do what was right? I mean, my sister was screaming I don't know. Bearing in mind, I'd grown up and this was the life I knew pretty much my whole life. And we didn't tell Dad. He didn't know any of this. So, we finished school. And it was our dad that picked us up. He picked us up and I shat myself. I was like, oh fuck, is Dad going to be pissed at me because I intervened? My dad looked at me and he was so proud. He was like, Sean, I'm so proud of you. I didn't know this was going on. I'm so sorry. But what you did was right, and do not blame yourself in any way whatsoever. What your mum was doing at that time was wrong. Obviously, my dad's English and my mum's Thai, so very different culture. But, I mean, from the child's perspective, yeah, getting beat sucks. And I remember we just started living with Dad. So began our summer. We were living with Dad in summer. And his place wasn't like a house like Mum's, it was like a barn. It was his studio, because he's an artist, so you'd walk in and it was basically a barn turned into a home, like a studio. We had rooms. I had my own room for the first time. My sister had her own room for the first time. My dad slept on the sofa, so we had our own room. Genuinely, and it's the summer. It was great. It was quite far away, but we had a bus that got into town. I met with friends. I was starting seeing friends more often. So did my sister. I started living like a kid, which I hadn't done before because I was looking after my sister so much, which I never had a problem with. But oh my god, it was great. Life was really goddamn good, man. I loved it. It was fucking amazing. Honestly, it was so good. But then, obviously things weren't so great in the back of my mind. I mean, Mum had literally just dumped us off with Dad. She basically just said, I don't want the kids anymore. I don't want him. I don't want them. And just blamed me for everything that whole summer. My dad didn't want to tell me, obviously, but he kind of hinted yeah, your mum's She said, you're basically with me now, indefinitely. And we were like, okay, this is chill. We love this. Fast forward, Mum, after it's been a couple months now, we're just getting on with life and we're kind of loving life. And Mum's starting to try and get us back into her life. She's starting to say I'm sorry and things, and I'm starting to realize, like, fuck. Now that I've been living with Dad, I realize that my whole life I've grown up, you know, getting beat over, like, not eating slightly more polite on the table, or I forgot to have a shower that one night. It's just, I realized getting beat, like, so badly over that, and hearing my sister get beat over worse things, I realized that that wasn't normal. At least in this country. And it kind of made me very resentful against her, and I was like, wait, but why would I want to go back to you when I'm living life here? I'm doing all the things that I could never do before. I'm seeing friends, and I'm still doing good. I'm still polite, I'm still cleaning up, and I'm still doing my homework and going to school. Like, life is good right now. I don't really want to go back. And me and my sister have both had the same thing. Bearing in mind, my sister's dealt with the worst end of it. So we were like, okay, nah, fuck you, we staying with Dad. And Dad was happy because he didn't, obviously from his perspective, he didn't know his kids were getting, like, hit. So he was like, nah, I don't want you guys to go back in that environment. What the fuck? I'll take care of you. And we were like, okay. So we started living with Dad. But we agreed that we'd see Mom, like, once a week because she was quite sad. So we were like, okay, yeah, she's still our mom. You know, we're still her kids. So she kind of dropped us off to school every morning. She'd drive over to my dad's because we live quite far away from school. She'd pick us up and take us to school. And then we'd see her like once a week. It was a Wednesday. So we'd spend the night at hers and then she'd take us to school. And then, you know, but obviously Mum wasn't the same. She never did anything again. Because, I mean, I was bigger, I was stronger, so she couldn't. But eventually I started to just stop, like, I got really pissed and I just didn't like Mum anymore. So I stopped seeing her once a week, but my sister still did. But because I wasn't there, she started going back to her old ways. So my sister stopped seeing her. But then something strange happened. Something weird. You see, my dad earned a decent amount of money. My mum had to work a lot. She was looking after us a lot. And she had rent or her own place. So Mum had to work a lot. But my dad would give her money every month. I think it was £1,000 or like £1,500 a month for the kids. For specifically looking after us. My dad did that every single month. But then he stopped because obviously we were living with him now. So Mum was a bit tight for money, but she didn't have to. She didn't have the cost of us. So it kind of evened out. But my dad would still help her every now and then when she was in dire times. But then eventually she started buying more things. Started like showering us with gifts, coming in and buying us huge shops of like foods and stuff. And we were like, after a while, me and my dad kind of looked at each other and were like, this is really nice of her. I mean, this is her way trying to get back into our lives, but I mean, what? Oh, and obviously, like, when I stopped my mum from, you know, when I was 11, going back a bit now, I forgot to say that, you know, the social services got involved, and that's why Mum can't, like, she lost custody of us. So obviously we weren't, like, just being like, no, you can't have us. No, social services came in and they were involved, and they said that, no, that this is wrong, that you are not allowed custody of the kids, the custody now goes to the father. So obviously, like, the social services were involved, we weren't just being dicks. But Mum started buying us lots and lots of nice things, and we were like, you were like, we weren't like wealthy. I mean, Dad was okay with money, but he had enough to spare. But she started sparing money for us. She was like, oh yeah, my mum to my dad, oh, if you need money, I'm always here to offer. And we were like, what the fuck? This has never happened before. So we didn't know what was going on. But then some information came out. My mother started enjoying the nightlife and making money off it, using her feminine wilds. I'm not going to say what she was doing, but you can probably guess what it was. So when she started making a lot of money, she did also work as a reflexologist, which is massage. Thai massage. She started making more money, going out more at night. We didn't know what was going on at the time, but she started doing a certain type of job. I'm not going to say, because I care about my mum now. We talk things over, we've gotten well, and I'm not going to shame down on her past. But yeah, she started enjoying a different type of job, a night kind of job. Started making a lot of money. Now, we didn't know. But I remember it did become known when she tried to take me and Mimi back. And my dad said no. And she tried to get aggressive. My dad slammed the door and was like, nah, you are not stealing the kids. You are not allowed them. You can't just have them back. We've agreed on like once a night a week, but you can't just take them back. Social services will get pissed and they will get on your case. And then the morning after, my dad was attacked. It was at 7 in the morning, before we had even gotten up and gotten ready for school. It was very early. My dad went outside to get some logs to put on the fire. And my dad was attacked. Multiple stab wounds. Literally on the verge of death. And we had no idea. We literally woke up to like police, like straight up, like with a fucking barge, like breaking in the door and like coming in and being like, hands up, what's going on? And I was in my room like, why are there strange men in my room? What the fuck? And same thing, my sister, she was like really confused and we were like, what the fuck's going on? And they came and kind of just sat us down and explained what happened, like our dad was attacked. And bearing in mind, this was completely out of the ordinary. The night before, my mum tried to come take us back by force. And we were like, wait, what the fuck? Okay. I remember saying, like, how do we go to school? And they were like, yeah, you ain't going to school today. You don't. That ain't happening right now. And since we lived close to a Abingdon police, so we were taken to their sort of like headquarters. Because it's quite a big one. They kind of view all the jurisdiction of all police stations in this kind of like county. So we were never a lucky area. There was a lot of, and it was really weird. Like we'd walk out and there were literally like, I always see of a movie, they had like tape and stuff and like crime scene things, like little like numbers and stuff. It genuinely was out of a movie. Like it was sick. Is it sick that I said that? It was kind of cool as a young kid. So we didn't really know what to do, and then we were put into foster care, because obviously my dad was in hospital. He was flown away in a helicopter. He was in hospital. And me and my sister, we were in foster care for about 6 months. We were there for half a year, unable to go to school because we were in witness protection. Because obviously our dad was just attacked. So one day I was in school, then one day I wasn't. All my friends were like, is Sean dead? Like, what the fuck has just happened? And we weren't allowed our phones because we were like under strict witness protection in our foster home. So no contact with the outside world. You can imagine how boring this was. We were in a fucking single room, double bunk bed. Just a bunk bed with me and my sister with nothing but Garfield, the DVD to watch. I watched Garfield like 100 times over and over again to pass the time. So we were bored for like 6 months. Yeah, me and my sister had a bunch of arguments as well. I mean, we were basically locked in together. We weren't even allowed to go outside Tesco's. And we weren't being updated on how our dad was doing. We straight up thought our dad had passed. We just heard nothing. After 4 or 5 months, we were like, we don't know what's going on. No one told us anything. And the reason why it was taking so long, my dad healed quite quickly, but when they sort of like started looking into it, they started seeing like all our past problems, and they saw that we had an encounter with social services and my mum, and Abingdon police started looking into it and like, okay, what's going on? Because social services and police, they don't communicate, so this was all new to them. So they had to dig in to find out, like, is our dad a good parent for us? Like, what is our mum? Like, who's a better parent? Like, Because obviously, like, the living conditions, we were basically in a barn that was turned into a studio home. So they were like, okay, so is he a good father? And obviously he was. So it was kind of like months wasted for no reason. But we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know why he was attacked. We didn't know what was happening. Eventually, after 6 months, we saw our dad again. After no idea what was happening, we saw our dad. I remember it was such a great fucking feeling. And we found out why he was attacked. Our mum, who had gone into that sort of night job, shall we say, had a certain man come attack him. After that night that dad refused to let mum take us by force. So our mum had our dad attacked. And then that's when it came out that we found out that she was doing that sort of night job. And we were like, what the fuck? What in the actual fuck? What? I was pissed because my dad got hurt. I was also pissed because we didn't know how long she'd been doing this night job. Who knows how long she'd been doing it? And after I had sacrificed so many outings with friends, literally my childhood, like to act like a child. But I was okay with it because I was like, Mum's working hard. But if she was working in a nightlife during that point, making that much money, as I was sacrificing my childhood to look after my sister when she could have been there and looked after us, those times she chose to go away for the night. Just so she could have a bit more fun and earn a lot more money. We were like, what? I don't know how I feel about that. I looked up to you because I knew you were working hard, but if all this time you weren't, then what do? I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was angry. Because also my dad was hurt, brought to the edge of his life, and he survived. I remember us literally just being like, what the fuck? We were finally allowed to live back with our dad, but we weren't allowed to live back at our home. We had to go live in a holiday home, in a caravan, like where a bunch of other people go, because we were still under risk in witness protection, so we had to go to this sort of holiday shitty home, and we lived there for about a year. We weren't allowed to go back. But I remember after 6-7 months, we got into our new home with me, my dad, my sister, finally allowed to live back as things were. And I remember seeing my friends for the first time in 7 months. I remember texting them like, hey, yo, you want to meet up? And they were like, Sean, we thought you were dead. What the fuck? We met up in Henley-on-Thames and I got the fattest hug from them. He literally jumped up and kneed me in the face by accident. She was like, Sean, how are you? And I was like, you fucking nearly knocked me out. And life was really good. It was good again. I lived way closer because we weren't allowed back in our old home, but where we were in our holiday home was literally a 5-minute cycle from all my friends. So I met up every single day. It was summer again. We did so much stuff, river jumping. It was great. Life was great. And then we moved back to our actual home. My sister really didn't want to for some reason, and I think it was because it was far away from friends. She could walk to meet her friends, but back in our actual home, we couldn't. We had to get the bus, and my sister's a lot younger than me, so we weren't sure if we were okay with her taking the bus by herself. My dad was hella protective, but he was a good dad. And he worried and cared for us. Our mum had gone hiding. We had no idea where she was. She'd gone to Thailand, just disappeared. So I think she was scared for her life as well, because she then tried to leave that nightlife, and they were pissed. So she tried to leave, and kind of like went into hiding. And then I remember life was good, but Mimi and my dad had some arguments. My little sister was very troublesome, very hard to deal with. But my dad loved her, and he tried everything. But he didn't want to discipline her like the way my mum did. He was terrified of putting us through that again. So he kind of was very relaxed with us. And I remember we tried to let her use the bus for the first time. I stayed on one end, my dad went on with her. And then she saw that where I was, she pressed the bus, got off. My dad then, we did the same thing, but my dad didn't go on with her. He just saw her off. She got on the bus. She was perfectly fine. Good, safe. And we were like, okay, you're good to go on the bus. You can go in town, see your friends. And you can do it independently now. You have an allowance, you can spend it on bus fares. I remember the first week she went on to do the bus. She didn't come back until literally almost like midnight. And me and my dad were worried as like fuck. We were like, school ended ages ago, what the fuck? So my dad drove, went to go find her. He found her with a friend, and he was pissed. He was really pissed because he was like, you have a phone, why the fuck didn't you message me, say anything? Why didn't you pick up my calls? It's nearly midnight. We trusted you to get the bus, and you betrayed that trust. We gave her a second chance, a third chance, did the exact same thing. She actually met up with a guy once. So my dad was like extra pissed. So he was really pissed. And then after that week, my dad gets a call to come into school. She does. He does. He goes into school, and apparently my sister has said some allegations about him. Some very sick allegations. Literally some, like, he was basically accused of some horrible things that my sister had said, which weren't true in any way whatsoever. I'm not going to say the allegations because it's genuinely fucked. But I remember my dad calling me and be like, hey, yo, yeah, is everything alright? And he was like, your sister just accused me of this, this, and this. That I did this when she was this years old. And I was like, what? What the fuck? Why? We were confused. So Mimi was taken out of our custody. She was put into foster care. And my dad went through a very dark period of his life. 2 weeks of very dark period. He was just accused of the worst thing that your daughter could accuse her father of. He didn't come out of his room, he didn't eat. Drank, drugs. He was heartbroken. I remember him coming home once and he was literally just screaming in pain. Yeah. Yeah, he went for a really, really dark period, so I don't blame him at all. I remember one time, and it was during this period, I had quite a few relationships by this point, and I was dating, I was currently going through my longest relationship. It's like a year or so. And I remember it was prom, and my dad my dad went out to drink. He didn't come back that night, and I had prom at like 6 p.m, and I was like, where the fuck is dad? He hasn't come back all morning. He's come back at 5:30, and he's fucked. Like, I mean, fucked to the point he had been spiked. So not only was he going through something terrible, what his daughter accused him of, my sister, he went out and he got spiked. He was like on like his motion, his like cognitive abilities, like you could tell he had been like something had like happened. So he was in bed. I put him to bed literally 30 minutes before I had to go to prom. And I was like, well, dad can't take me there now, so how the fuck do I get to prom? And I was like, taxi! Yeah, I got to my prom via taxi. And then I tried to get out the door, and it was locked. And I didn't know where the key was. So I had no way to get out the house. So I had to wedge open the back garage, which was locked, by the way. So I literally had to, like, get a wooden plank, wedge it open with my strength, because it was locked. And I had to, like, crawl underneath without getting my suit dirty or, like, grubby. Because bearing in mind it's a studio, there's a lot of artwork, a lot of dust, a lot of resin. So I got out, got into a taxi, and I got to prom, while my dad was at home recovering. And I remember turning up and people were like, you got here by a taxi? And I was like, hell fucking yeah. Me and my girlfriend at the time weren't getting on because I was dealing with a lot. And obviously it was quite stressful for us. You know, imagine, like, your boyfriend is like, yeah, my sister just accused our dad of some heinous acts. And we're currently, don't know what to do. We're currently under investigation. And she was like, what? He didn't know, did he? And we were like, no, obviously not. She said that he did things from literally when she was like 1 year old. Our parents were divorced. My dad wasn't in the country. We were in mum's care. How is that even possible when he's not even in the country? Like, how is that possible for him to do stuff when he wasn't here? Like, so she was like, yeah, obviously. And we know your dad. Like, my dad has had, I have like 6 sisters, so he's had like 2 families before me. And they're all girls. I have no brother. He's never ever done one single thing. Everyone loves him. So we all knew it was fake. Like, and bearing in mind, like, my sister had just gotten a huge argument with my dad before she said all this. So, like, we were like, well, this is kind of a dick move. But, I mean, yeah, she's clearly pissed. So, yeah, I went to prom. We were kind of on a rocky road, but it was fine. And then a bit later, we break up. It's like a nearly a year relationship. And that sucked. Because I neglected my friends and I spent all my time with her. So my friends no longer spent that much time with me. Which was partially my fault. I spent too much time with that girl when they wanted, when they were like, oh, Sean, do you want to hang out? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm spending time with, you know, my girlfriend. And they were like, oh, come on, man, you never hang out with us anymore. So they stopped inviting me out. And then we broke up, and then I had no one. And this was during the period that me and my dad were kind of struggling. Mimi was in foster, we didn't know what was happening. Then one night, police barged through the same house, same goddamn door, into my same goddamn bedroom again. The police are there and they're like, you Sean Wylder? And I was like, what the fuck now? This has happened before? Again? The fuck is happening now? My dad's been in a car accident. Someone had rear pulled out, and they didn't look, and my dad crashed into the back of their car, but my dad was slightly under the influence, so they had to investigate. However, the guys came out of this black car, 3 of them, started walking to his car, and my dad sort of had PTSD back to when he was literally attacked by 3 men with knives, and he had multiple stab wounds, and he sort of had PTSD, so he kind of like injured himself to sort of like get out, and so they wouldn't attack him. So the police were like investigating that, like, oh, that's self-harm, that's like bad. So again, I was put into foster. And after the previous encounter in foster homes, where I had 6 months of literally boredom with no contact with the outside world, I hated foster homes. The people were nice, but it's just like I couldn't do it. And I was with this family. It was literally like 4 a.m. The police were like, do you have anyone, like friends you can stay with the night? And obviously my friends and I weren't getting on very well because I had neglected all my time with them to spend with my girlfriend. And now we broke up, so I was alone. So I was like, no, I don't really have anyone that I can call that I can stay the night tonight. But I'll try anyway. I called my 2 closest friends. One of them didn't pick up because it was 4 a.m, so obviously they were asleep. But the other one did. And he was like, is everything okay? And I was like, look, accidents happen. Police are here. I need a place to stay the night. Can you do me a solid? And he said he'll try. He'll talk to his parents. But either way, I had to stay in the foster for the night, emergency foster home. So I stayed there for the night, a couple days. They had a dog. We went out for dog walks. God, I remember going on those dog walks, man. I was so quiet because, like, obviously I didn't want to go through everything again. Yeah, those foster cares, they were so nice. They were trying to be really nice to me, and I wasn't in the right headspace, obviously, because, like, this has just happened whilst social services are investigating my dad for allegations which never obviously happened. But from their perspective, they have to investigate any allegations that come up because to their perspective, they don't know either side's story. But then I get a call after a few days and they're saying, You're staying with a friend. The parents said that they'll look after you. So I get driven, and I start living with one of my close friends. We weren't as close anymore, but I started living with them. Now imagine that, living with your best friends under the same roof. Imagine how that would have been. Hella fucking fun. And we were going to college at this point, so like, I managed to get into college, left secondary school. I'm getting up to like, was it 16 now? Just seeing if I get into college. I get into college and I start going to school with them. We get on the same train, we go to college, and it was great. I started forgetting about my breakup because I was living with friends. And Dad, I wasn't living with him. And my friends, they're a normal family. They're a normal family. Their dad's a GP, mom's like a stay-at-home like mum. Started living a normal life again. It was great. I was living with friends. They had a nice big fucking house. It's just fucking awesome. My dad recovers, and he moves out of the barn, and he gets a new place. And then once he's got a new place, he's brought everything around. They're still questioning if he's a good father, since he technically hurt himself whilst he was in an accident. Granted, it was due to PTSD, because obviously, Dad went through something horrible before. But I remember my dad being like, it's okay if you don't want to come back. I love you, and I want to look after you for the rest of my life. But you've had a hectic as fuck upbringing, Sean. And you're currently living with friends who have a big house, and they've even said that they're ready for you to take you to uni. They're ready to pay for your uni. I don't blame you if you don't want to live with me. I remember that's what my dad said, and I'm guilty because I genuinely thought about it. I genuinely thought about what he said, and I was like, you know what, it would be kind of cool living here. I'm guilty I even thought that. Eventually, some stuff happens, and, the mum that was looking after me was quite unwell, and she felt so horrible with it, saying that she couldn't look after me, that around Christmas I'd have to go. Right? It'd been like 4 months at this point, and she felt so bad. She was literally in tears, and she was like, "Oh, we were prepared to look after you for the rest of our lives." And I was like, "No, it's okay. It's okay. You've done so much for me now. It's all right. You've got your own family to deal with, and I can't pose any more of an expense. You've already got 2 kids, and you just took on an extra one? 3 kids?" I remember her saying, "Yeah, but Sean, you literally brought the family together. You're like a ball of energy at the dinner table. The boys never used to talk as much as they did, and now they do. It's literally like a family. You brought everyone together." And I felt so happy when she told me that, and I was like, yeah. And you gave me a home. Whereas I could have been homeless, or stuck in another foster. My sister's still going through foster homes at this point. I'm starting to lose my voice now. So I went and lived with my dad. In this home where we are currently at now. And I remember, for the first time, me and my dad looked at each other and we were like, we've got our own house. Your sister isn't with us, but it's just us now. We got a proper home. This ain't so bad. I remember us having our first Christmas there. I remember I moved here, I think it was 2022, or like 2021, I can't remember. But it was on the 17th of December. I remember the day and the month. And I remember celebrating Christmas with him for the first time in 2 years without any drama, any problems. I remember us just being like, this ain't so bad. Granted, in the background, we've got to deal with the whole my little sister situation, but they gave us permission to have my dad look after me again. He wasn't allowed to drive, though, because he was an accident under the influence, so he wasn't allowed to drive, but that's okay. We live pretty close. We have a town right next to us. We can walk everywhere. Fast forward a year later, I sent in my statement. I wasn't allowed to. The social services said that I was like put me off, saying that like I wasn't a valid witness or something like that to giving a statement. But then the police were like, "Nah, fuck you. He given a statement." I got my own private solicitor, gave him my statement about everything that my sister said. And obviously, since I had lived with her my whole life, I could neglect and completely disregard all the lies that she said because I was there. I literally lived with her from day one. I would have seen anything. And obviously, everyone knows my dad would never do such a thing. All of his 5 daughters before. I remember the moment I put in my statement, the court was like, There's nothing to prosecute here. There is no case. Your father is innocent. It's clear as day now. And they actually went ahead and I started asking my sister a bunch of questions. Like, why did you lie about this? Like, you said that Sean, your brother, was a witness to this, but he said that that wasn't the case. Started asking her a bunch of like questions, quite like traumatic questions. They're quite like in depth. They're like, yeah, okay, we know you lied. And my sister took it all back. She said, I don't want to take this any further. I lied. And that was it. Finished. I don't live with my sister anymore. It's been 2 years since that. And then that was when I started to go on self-improvement and change my life around. I do miss her. But I can't view myself in the same living place as her after what she accused my dad of. If it was just me and her in a house, then what if she said the same things about me? I just simply couldn't trust her after that. And neither could my dad. I remember my dad saying that he tried so hard after what our mum put us through with me and my sister, and he failed because my sister turned out like this, not living with us anymore. And I told him no, that's not the case. You tried everything, and she said some incredibly sick allegations for no reason. My dad was heartbroken. He basically lost a daughter. Yeah. And here we are. Today, back to where we are. I remember, I forgot to mention that Mum came back out of hiding, and she came back to stand by my dad with these allegations as well, and she gave in a statement saying that Jonathan, my dad, would never ever do anything like this. Ever. And we really appreciated Mum saying that. Despite everything, she was honest. And that's when me and Mum talked, and she apologized for what she did. She was really sorry about how things happened. I told her I couldn't forgive her for anything. I mean, after the things she'd done, but I told her that I could move on with our relationship now. That I won't hold so much anger and resentment like I did. Because not only does it do damage to you, it does damage to me. And here I am now. Dad's on holiday. I told him to go on holiday, he earned it. I'm living here by myself now. I gotta cut the lawn. Mum and I, we don't talk a lot, but there's no hard feelings between us now. My dad's just sold one of his properties. He's now doing a lot better. The only thing is I don't see my sister anymore. This is what I meant. My friend literally told me that you should write a book about everything, about what you lived, because you genuinely have lived more, sometimes maybe you've experienced more than adults have, like literally 30-year-old adults, with the things I've been through. I told him maybe he's right. Maybe I will write a book about not just about my experience, but about my experience in self-improvement too. About all the things I can teach you. It's a shame though, because that same friend is the friend group that I pushed away because of me spending too much time with my girlfriend, and yeah. But when we split up, I tried everything to get back into their group. But they excluded me from everything. I saw them in school, I lived with them, but they excluded me from everything outside school. And I remember him literally saying to me, after we kind of like split ways, I dropped out of college and I just said fuck you to everyone. I remember literally like a year later, he messaged me, whilst drunk, but he messaged me saying, Sean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how we all treated you. It wasn't right. And we know you were trying so hard to make things right, but we weren't helping. And I'm sorry we excluded you from everything, and we made you feel alone. And I remember telling him, you know what, if you didn't do what you did, I wouldn't be where I am now. I'm on self-improvement, I'm happy, I'm doing YouTube, I've gotten a good job, I'm happy. I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for you guys. You guys helped me, especially when I was going through difficult times as a child. So I still talk to him, you know, my really close friends. The rest of the group I don't see as much, but that's okay, because I've made new friends, met new people, also on self-improvement. You know, last time I talked about this, it was to my friend's mum, when I was living with her, and my best friends, and she basically said, one rule for us looking after you, no secrets. Tell us everything, what's happened. And I told her everything, and I remember I was bawling out, I was in tears. So, especially when it came to stuff with my dad. So, the fact that I'm not bawling it right now, I'm proud of myself. But yeah. That's it. That's my story before I picked up this camera. Actually, that's a lie, because when I left college, I went into a 9-to-5 job, and then, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m, started working full-time, became really, really depressed, drugs, alcohol, just working, and video games, becoming a complete degenerate. And then I had a motorcycle accident, couldn't walk for literally like 2 months. I smashed up my left leg. There's still some things not right with it now, but I can walk again. And I literally forced myself, you know what, the day after I had my accident, I'm not going to live like a degenerate anymore. And I picked up the camera and I did my first recording. That's my story. Now we're back to where I am now, after I've picked up the camera. I sped run that last bit because I'm losing my voice and I need water, man. I'm thirsty. I gotta record another video after this as well. Fuck. Oh well. That's my story. Again, I thank you for the 5,000 subscribers. We're one step closer to 10k and then 100k and building my own community for other young people who are exactly like me. Maybe not the same childhood as me, but felt as lost as I did. Everyone can feel, you know what? Someone could have not had any problem like my childhood right now, but they could be still as depressed as I was from a college or working. Doesn't matter what you've experienced, people can still feel the same things. It's a matter of perspective. It's a sunny day. Okay. The camera overheated on me, so this is like another clip. But that's my story. Thank you for 5k, and this is a long ass video. It's like an hour long. So thanks. I hope you've been good, and I hope you've been right. Anyway, stay consistent. Do the best you can. Give me a self-improvement kiss. Mwah.